begins with silence, and then the sound of engines. Stories written in the clouds. Stories of families, of journeys, of hope. But not all flights made it. On a warm day in May 1979, Chicago's O'Hare International Airport roared with activity. A McDonnell Douglas DC-10, American Airlines Flight 191, prepared for takeoff. Passengers fastened their seatbelts, unaware of what was coming. As the jet thundered down the runway, a terrifying failure struck. The left engine tore away from the wing, ripping hydraulic lines with it. For a brief moment, the aircraft lifted from the ground, but seconds later it rolled onto its side and slammed into the earth, erupting in flames. 273 souls perished. It remains the deadliest crash in American history. 10 years later, tragedy struck again in the skies above the Midwest. United Airlines Flight 232 was cruising at 37,000 feet when a catastrophic engine explosion destroyed all hydraulic systems. Suddenly, the crew faced the impossible, a jet that could not be steered. For 44 minutes, passengers whispered prayers as the pilots fought with nothing but engine thrust, guiding the crippled DC-10 towards Sioux City. On landing, the aircraft cartwheeled down the runway, breaking apart in a storm of fire. 111 died, yet 185 miraculously survived. It was one of the most heroic landings in aviation history. In 1996, another nightmare shook America. Just minutes after leaving JFK Airport, Trans World Airlines Flight 800, a Boeing 747 bound for Paris, erupted in a fiery blast off Long Island. Witnesses swore they saw a missile. Conspiracies spread like wildfire, but investigators pointed to something else, a center fuel tank explosion caused by faulty wiring. The jumbo jet disintegrated in midair, plunging into the Atlantic Ocean. All 230 lives were lost, and the debate over what really happened continues to this day. In August 1985, Dallas-Fort Worth faced its darkest skies. Delta Airlines Flight 191, a Lockheed TriStar, descended through a thunderstorm. Nature had prepared a deadly trap, a powerful microburst. Wind slammed the aircraft into the ground short of the runway, tearing through cars and structures before exploding in flames. 137 died. This tragedy forced aviation to take wind shear seriously, introducing radar and warning systems that protect millions of passengers today. Years earlier, in December 1972, another Lockheed TriStar fell victim to distraction. Eastern Airlines Flight 401 was on approach to Miami when the crew became fixated on a faulty landing gear indicator light. Nobody noticed the silent descent into the Everglades below. Seconds later, the jet smashed into the swamp. 101 people perished, 75 survived. But the wreckage wasn't the only thing left behind. For years, Eastern crew members whispered of ghosts of Flight 401 haunting other L-1011 aircraft, strange reflections in cockpit glass, voices in the darkness. In January 2000, Alaska Airlines Flight 261 carried families home from vacations. At 31,000 feet above the Pacific, disaster struck. The stabilizer jammed, throwing the MD-83 out of control. The pilots fought desperately, but the plane plunged nose first into the ocean. All 88 on board died. Later investigations revealed the truth. A tiny screw, worn down from poor maintenance, had doomed them all. Only weeks after the tragedy of September 11, 2001, New York was once again shaken by fire from the skies. American Airlines Flight 587, an Airbus A300, lifted off from JFK. Moments later, aggressive rudder movements and turbulence tore the vertical stabilizer clean off. The aircraft plunged into a Queens neighborhood, killing 265 people, including 5 on the ground. For a city still grieving, it felt like another cruel blow. In 1994, U.S. Airways Flight 427 was just minutes from landing in Pittsburgh when it suddenly rolled violently and plunged nose first into the ground. 132 lives were lost instantly. Investigators later uncovered a fatal flaw in the Boeing 737's rudder system. It was a hidden danger in one of the most common airliners in America. In July 1982, Pan Am Flight 759 lifted off from New Orleans into stormy skies. Seconds later, wind shear forced the Boeing 727 back down. The jet slammed into a residential neighborhood in Kenner, Louisiana. Entire streets vanished in fire and debris. 153 people were killed, including 8 on the ground. And finally, in 2009, a cold February night brought one of the most chilling crashes of modern times. Colgan Air Flight 3407, a Bombardier Q400 commuter plane, was approaching Buffalo when it stalled. The captain, exhausted and poorly trained, made the fatal mistake of pulling instead of pushing the controls. The aircraft crashed into a suburban home, killing all 49 aboard and one person on the ground. It was more than just a tragedy. It exposed the brutal truth of America's regional airlines, where pilots were underpaid, overworked, and pushed beyond safe limits. 10 crashes. 10 moments when ordinary flights became unforgettable disasters. Each one carved scars into aviation history. Each one left behind stories of grief, of heroism, of lessons learned. From engines that failed to storms no pilot could beat, to mistakes born of fatigue and distraction, these tragedies forced change. Today, every safety system, every warning alarm, every training drill, every piece of regulation exists because of the lives lost in moments like these. When you step on a plane now, you're flying on the lessons written in fire and smoke. Because in aviation, the rules are written in blood. And the skies never forget.